When I was the pastor of College Heights United Church of Christ up in San Mateo for 11 years, what a wonderful congregation that was. So much like this one that it makes me smile whenever I think of it, actually. Definitely sister churches in every way. What a great group. Anyway, every Wednesday we had a silent meditation session, first thing in the morning, 6:30 a.m. Can you deal with that? No, I can't deal with that anymore. But if you can, let me know. Maybe we could do it. So every Wednesday we did contemplatio together. And one Wednesday was Ash Wednesday. So I go, oh, okay, well, we'll do the ashes for Ash Wednesday. So I announced this. Then I get to church that morning, 6:30 in the morning, and I go, oh no, I forgot the ashes. Oh, not good. What am I going to do? Oh man, I was in a panic. It's 6 in the morning, and I got to find some ashes fast. And I thought, well, I have to burn something. So I tried burning paper. Well, you know what? You burn paper, it's gone. There's nothing left. It just goes away. There's no ash. So I was just desperate. So finally I go, what's ashes like? What ash-like substance can I use? And I go, oh, I'll look in the spice rack in the church kitchen, and I find cinnamon. I go, what a cool idea, cinnamon. It'll smell nice, and it'll work. It's dusty. So we do cinnamon. I do impose the ashes, instead of ashes, cinnamon on the forehead. I feel all good about myself, and everybody's smiling like, oh, what a clever idea. Oh, Jim, that's neat. Anyway, it was on my forehead too. And about noontime, I thought maybe I should just wash this off and, go to town to get my lunch. And I washed it off, and to my horror, there was a bright red mark on my forehead because cinnamon is a skin irritant. It burns the skin. And I was just mortified. I have just permanently etched the cross onto the foreheads of my church members. I was like, freaking out, just freaked out completely. And, immediately making phone calls. And anyway, everybody had a pretty great sense of humor about it. And of course, it doesn't take too long for the burn to fade away, but they got more cross than they bargained for that time, I'll tell you. So the lesson is, do not use cinnamon for Ash Wednesday. Bad idea. It was a humbling moment, a very humbling moment. But then I got to thinking about the fact that that's what Ash Wednesday is all about. It's about humility. And boy, I got a dose of it that day. A major dose of humility. You think of the liturgical year of the Christian faith. We celebrate virtues, right, at different times of the year. Christmas, the virtues of awe and wonder. Valentine's Day, the virtue of love. Thanksgiving, it's not Christian technically, but, might as well be. And we celebrate the virtue of gratitude. And at Lent, we celebrate the virtue of humility. Well, these are all virtues we ought to be practicing every day, right? Hello. But it is a very good thing to set aside times to reflect on particular virtues, particular practices that matter to us. So it would seem to me the virtue of humility is what we're working on for Lent every year. It would also seem to me that this country we live in has got a major humility deficit, as we might have observed this week in the Oval Office. OMG. I wish I had brought a jar of cinnamon with me to that event and done the deed. Anyway, it's a problem, right, for our country, this deficit of humility. And lacking that virtue has a way of kind of coming back at us later. And eventually, our lack of humility is going to humiliate us. It's going to happen. It's the way it goes. So humility, how do we cultivate this virtue? What's the way of humility for us? I think one practice for Lent for us all to consider is a very simple one, and that is to ask questions. Jesus asked great questions all the time. You know, we think of Jesus as the teacher, right? He did plenty of that. But a lot of his teaching did not take the form of explaining things. I was out hiking in the hills of Ojai recently. I keep running into this guy that I kind of know, a guy by the name of Rob Bell. And have you ever heard of this guy? He was a very famous evangelical preacher. He was on the cover of Time magazine about 15 years ago because he had a humbling moment in his mega church where he was a pastor. There was a poster in the church that had a picture of Gandhi on it. And somebody in his fundamentalist church had put a sticky note on it saying, "He's in hell, you know." Well, Rob Bell, the pastor, yeah, we've got a problem here. I'm going to step away here. Hide. He saw that, and he just thought to himself, this is weird. And he thought to himself, you know, Gandhi is not in hell. And that moment really turned him around and basically turned him into a progressive Christian, much to the consternation of his congregation, who did exactly what they did to Paul Bergman, who you heard preach here not long ago. Same thing happened to Paul. He kind of woke up and got humbled by reality and realized, you know, this theology of our way is the only way, that's not the humility of Jesus at all. So Rob Bell got pushed out of the church that he founded and wound up in Ojai. And now he's writing novels, and which I have written. Anyway, we got in a conversation about writing novels, something I have done. And I said, what turns you on to this project, Rob? And he goes, when you write a novel, you don't have to explain anything. It's not about explaining things. He says, I am done with explaining things. And I go, oh, I love that. I love that. You're onto it. You're onto something there. How to get past explanations and just tell stories, which is what Jesus did. Mostly he didn't explain things. He just told stories and asked great questions, right? You figure it out. Here's the question. You figure it out. And that was his practice of humility, asking questions. And what a great practice for us, too, yeah, to ask questions. Because when you ask an honest, open-ended question, that's an act of humility. You're sharing your awareness that you don't have the answer. You're not the expert on everything. You don't know what's going on about everything. You know, let's find out what somebody else has to say. Ask other people for their experience and their perspective. A great form of exercise to build up the muscle, if you will, of humility. Does humility have muscles? But if it does, that's the way to get it, right? That's the way to build them up. So I'm going to stop explaining things now and ask you a question. And that is, what question have you been asked that changed your life, or that had a big impact on you? What is the best question that anybody ever asked you? Anybody? Or have I stumped you already? Oh, good. All right, Millie, let's get at it here.
In college, I was involved with the aftermath of the YMCA campus organization. And there was a small group of us that took a class, a senior class, about cultural Christianity and cultural religions in other countries. The man who led that was George Kaufman, who was a Eastern recognized theologian. And he looked at me and he said, "Now what are you going to do when you graduate?" And he made me think about that. And I said, "Well, I'm not quite sure, but I think I want to go to seminary." He said, "That's where you belong. You go there."
The question that set you on the path of your career. Beautiful. Hold on.
I was just going to say something similar. I think about what led me to where I am now was the thing you ask every child: what do you want to be when you grow up? You know, and I always knew I want to be a nurse. I want to help people, and it took me to the college I worked my choice, and it took me to this guy, and so it just.
What do you want to be when you grow up? It's a good question. One I'll think about. What do I want to be when I grow up? Others? Yes.
I'm not sure it was asking me a question. I grew up, I went to Catholic high school, not elementary, thank goodness, because from what I understand, it's scarring. But I did go to Catholic high school, and there were nuns that were teaching. And of course, growing up Catholic, you know, there's that whole do what you're told and, follow the rules and all that kind of stuff. But one of the nuns that I had as a teacher, and I loved kind of tormenting them by being ridiculous about things and testing them. But one of them, her thing was question authority. And that came from a nun. But it was more about that it was okay to question. And that was huge for me at that time, because and she told me her story and how her life had been affected. But that was a big piece for me.
Yeah. Question authority. Others? Question. All right. Eva.
The question which is getting my brain, it was under the system communist, we don't have right to believe. They already shut down all the churches and mosques and everything. And when I see my grandmother doing prayers every day, my dad's mother, and fasting to appreciate what God gave her every Tuesday and Thursday, permanently, all her life, for respect of the God. One of the questions when I grow up, I was, I think, first year of high school, discussing with her what you feel, what for believing. Her question, what is God for you and what is believing for you? How you are feeling about that, what you understand about that, and how you picture the God. And that it was her question. And which I remember before I go in a holy mission and have the concept, what is God? And I say to her, I don't know, Grandma, I just see you praying every night, and I have cold because I sleep with you, and your blanket is go up, and all my bag is cold. But I already told her, when you're praying, what I see is I see some many colors, white, green, blue, like balls coming around you like this one. But I see her that for many years. And she told me, what you see? And I say, yeah, you are praying now. The light is turning off. We don't have lights in that time. And I say, but I see, I don't know, some forms come around like this, but it's many colors and it's come around of you. And I don't know what are that. And she said, did you have scared? Did you be scared? I say, no, I doesn't be scared because they look so nice. And it's just come around you all the time. And I need to understand what is that one. And my grandmother, she never been to school. In that time, they never been to school. And she told me, I think it's some presence of the God, but even I'm praying, I don't know to explain to you what it is, but I feel inside of me when I pray, I am like I go in some other place. I'm not here at all. That it was her explanation. And all the time when I go and pray, I all the time have her. But when I go to the revolution, I already have all. I know now I am clear. And I respect her for what she did for all her life. Woman which she already, I'm gonna tell in this one, she eats just one time a day. And when I say, Grandma, why you eat? You don't eat at all. It's enough for the body. We don't need to be heavy. The first one, and when we try to buy things, I remember my mom tried to buy her dress and things, and she all the time give it to the poor people. And I say, your dress not good. You're not gonna come with me if you don't put the dress. And she all the time say, it's not important, this kind of things. Important is what you have here and what you have there.
Anybody see any colors around Eva right now? Watch her closely. I think we might see some colors here. Yes, please.
It's not a question that was asked to me, but it was a question that I asked Jim. And for those of you who don't know me, within the last 2-3 years, my husband and I we came from a very high demand religion, and we had to deconstruct our faith. And so at one point, about a year ago, I went to Jim in tears. I told him that I don't know who God is anymore. And he told me that I'm sorry. I don't mean to press it on you what you believe, but he told me that God is love. And when I left, the 2 tissues that he gave me to wipe my tears was somehow folded into a heart. And that, I don't know, coming from that religion that I came from, we believe in signs. And that was a sign to me that God is love.
I wish I had Kleenex now. Amen. Yes, Calvin.
I come from a family with a lot of evangelical Christians, and when my daughter was about, 3 or 4 years old, my brother asked me if I was going to raise her as a Christian. And I said yes. At that time, I attended church regularly. Every Christmas and every Easter, I went to my parents' church. So I didn't really have a connection with any church. So after a couple of years of thinking about this promise that I gave my brother, I started looking for a church, and I found this church, which is kind of ironic because this is not the church that my brother would think that I would be taking my daughter to. And this was actually the start of a journey where I would say I learned more about Christianity. In fact, now I have the same opinions as I did back then when I was regularly attending church twice a year. However, now I can argue my opinions. Now I can tell you why this is right.
Amen.
Something that applies to all of us that we've all lived through over the past 15 years or so. What are you going to do about it? You know, this whole group is really into what are we going to do about it?
Yeah, instead of complaining and bewailing and bemoaning, what are we going to do? Thank you. That might be the question to end our conversation with. Yes. And to just ponder, what are the good questions that we should be asking ourselves? And what helpful, interesting, and useful questions can we ask those around us? Open-ended, honest questions that bring us closer together, bring our souls into communion one with the other. And on that note, let us share in the rite of communion, of the Eucharist, remembering what Jesus said when he took the bread and broke it. This is me. This is my body. And the wine, when he lifted it up. This is my life poured out for you. Let us share in the life of the Christ with each other, in community, communing with each other, humbly, as we receive these elements. And those who wish to come to me for Ash Wednesday, for imposition of the ashes, we've moved Wednesday to Sunday today. And there's no cinnamon involved. But if you'd like to come forward and receive the ashes as your way of starting the Lenten path of pursuing humility, come forward. I got these ashes from a nice, beautiful piece of wood, charcoal that I crumbled up. So it's legit. Come, take, eat, drink.